Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're talking some Beyblade, and this is a topic that I've felt pretty strongly about for a while. As you may or may not know, I'm a pretty big Kyoya fan. He was my favorite character across the entire Metal Fight generation while I was growing up, and he still is to this day. Kyoya was one of the few characters from Metal Fight to have a pretty big role in all 3 seasons, and with that level of attention, he easily became one of the fan favorites from this show. And look, even though I believe Kyoya is one of the best written characters across the entire series, that does not change the fact that his character had its questionable moments, specifically within Season 3, Beyblade Metal Fury. Metal Fury was a pretty controversial season, to say the least. It had all the tools necessary to be the best season, like a cool plot and really good fights, but unfortunately it fell short in a few different areas. From the overall story being compressed into 39 episodes, to then introducing a ton of new characters with practically no time to give them any substance whatsoever, and all in all, you're left with a pretty controversial season. I bring this up because Kyoya's character in this season could very well be a byproduct of everything wrong with Metal Fury. But okay, before we really dive into his arc from Season 3, let's first get a pretty good understanding of who Kyoya is as a character pre-Season 3. We start off with Kyoya basically being the leader of a street gang called the Face Hunters. He's a legitimate villain, and he's pretty ruthless. Now, this all kind of starts to change after he fights Jinga a couple of times. In their first match, Kyoya loses, and this is what essentially begins his journey as a blader. From the moment Kyoya lost to Jinga, he basically made it his life goal to one day take his revenge in victory. And this is what actually drives him as a blader across all 3 seasons. Now, after this first battle, there's a mini arc where he goes off to train, he becomes a lot stronger, and he comes in for the rematch. He kind of loses himself in his anger, and he ultimately changes for the worst. But Jinga is actually able to beat him again, and he kind of shows Kyoya the light. And now Kyoya is officially set on the path that he's going to be traveling down for the rest of the show. He really wants to defeat Jinga, but he's not a bad guy anymore. In fact, he kind of joins the friend group. And at this stage, he falls into a very popular character trope, especially within 2000s anime. He's essentially the hardcore emo rival who isn't very social, and he played this role very, very well. As the season went on, he also started warming up to Jinga and the rest of the group, even Tsubasa for a little bit, and it was really cool to see. He was still completely fueled by his desire to defeat Jinga, but he wasn't losing himself or being super crazy about it. By the end of Season 1, it was more of a friendly rivalry. So to basically cap off Season 1 Kyoya, the one word I would use is change. It was very cool to see him evolve from a standard villain to a legitimate friend and rival of the main character. So yeah, Season 1 Kyoya was great, but now we got Season 2. I'll be honest, he did not get as much screen time in this season, but he was still just as important for the story, if not more important. So my favorite part about Season 2 Kyoya was the rivalry aspect of his character. I mean, the writers essentially took everything to do with the Jinga-Kyoya rivalry, and they just dialed it up to the max. There wasn't as much character growth for Kyoya, but damn was it fun to see him in action during Metal Masters. I mean, he breezes through the selection tournament for Team Japan, he makes the team, then he tells Jinga that he never had any intentions of actually being on the team, he just wanted to show Jinga his strength, and then he promises to make his own team and defeat Jinga on the world stage. Then the show kind of lets you forget all about this for a while as we deal with Team China and Team Russia, we even meet the European team, and then finally we come back to this storyline, and Kyoya is back with a vengeance. His squad is sweeping teams left and right, and he's putting on a show just for Jinga. There was so much hype and anticipation for their eventual matchup, and once you actually get there, I've talked about this quite a bit, but this entire arc is just cinema. I'll spare you a lot of the heavy details because you probably already know them, but Jinga and Kyoya tie, it's a crazy match, and then after Team Japan wins the overall matchup, we see a very cool character moment out of Kyoya. Although he lost, he turns to Jinga and basically says, "Go win this thing." And that's a really cool moment for me because the old Kyoya would never. And then later this season, he actually goes out of his way to help Jinga with the whole Spiral Core situation. So to take a step back and compile Kyoya as a character up to this point, he is a fierce rival for Jinga, but he's also someone you can count on, and he is a friend. He prefers to do things his own way, and he's not super friendly, but when necessary, he will join up with others, like we saw with Team Wildfang and Jinga's group. But okay, that's all out of the way. We have an idea of who Kyoya is and what kind of person he is. So now let's talk a bit about where Metal Fury took his character and where they went wrong. Kyoya starts this season wanting to defeat Jinga. That's completely normal, it's even to be expected. He postponed that goal due to the Spiral Core, and now that that's done, he's back wanting to defeat Jinga. Now, after their rematch, we get introduced to the whole Legendary Blader plotline. We learn that both Jinga and Kyoya are a part of that group that is needed to save the world from the God of Destruction. So then, Jinga and the gang form their group, they travel the world looking for the rest of the Bladers, and Kyoya ends up kind of reluctantly going with them. And now, here is where we get to the first part of his character from Season 3 that I don't really love. For me, it all starts with his attitude. He's always been a loner, he's never really been friendly, but man, in this season they take like all of his worst qualities and just dial them all the way up. At the beginning of this season, I'm not gonna lie, he's kind of an asshole. And this is like almost typical Kyoya behavior, but I feel like it's just so exaggerated in this season. He's so much meaner to Jinga, Madoka, Yuki, and I feel like it's just a little bit too much. That's my first complaint. That could be more of a personal thing on my end, but as a Kyoya fan, it was pretty difficult to watch this season and just see him being like this. It's almost like, dude, if you're that angry and miserable to be traveling with this group, just leave, you know? Like, we're trying to save the world here. But let me know what you guys think about that. This behavior is not super out of character for Kyoya. Again, I just think it's exaggerated. But now we move on, and everything's kind of smooth sailing until we get to the Mist Mountain arc. Kyoya gets a ton of shine within this arc, as he avenges his earlier loss to Aguma with an amazing victory. Now, within this battle, the seeds for Kyoya's arc for the rest of the season get planted. Aguma is kind of calling him a fraud, like, hey, you have this lone wolf demeanor, but you're always traveling with Jinga and the rest of your little friends. And this obviously gets under Kyoya's skin, but he's able to get the victory. Now, later on in this arc, we of course get to the infamous Kyoya crash out. This is well after the battle took place, but Aguma is still chirping at Kyoya. And for some reason, Kyoya really lets it get under his skin this time. He crashes out, he's attacking Jinga, Dynamis, and he's just going crazy in a way that we haven't seen since probably early season 1, back when he was an actual villain. Then Jinga and the group finally managed to neutralize the situation, and then Kyoya just leaves. So yeah, this whole arc is obviously a huge part of his character in season 3, and to be quite honest with you, I think it has all the bones necessary to be a really good arc. But I feel like it maybe wasn't executed to the level it could have been. Like, my main issue is, why did Kyoya let Aguma's words bother him so much, especially after Kyoya just beat him in a battle? Like, bro, who cares what this guy has to say? You just destroyed him. But on another note, Aguma is technically correct. Kyoya is always claiming to be the lone wolf. He does things his own way, blah blah blah. And for the most part, he does. But within this season, he absolutely did not. Up to this point, he was traveling with Jinga and the friend group, so Aguma is actually correct with his insults, and this is maybe why it angered Kyoya even more. So I guess that does make a little sense. But here's the thing. I would argue that with everything we've learned about Kyoya up to this point in the story, he should not be mad about this. He wanted to defeat Jinga in Season 1, but he put that to the side for a little bit for Battle Bladers and to fight against Ryuga. Then in Season 2, he tied against Jinga. I bet he wanted nothing more than to have a rematch when he next saw Jinga, but when they did reunite, he put those desires to the side and actually teamed up with him to stop the Spiral Core and save the world. Kyoya has teamed up with people before. He's done it a lot, from being in Jinga's group, to Team Wildfang, to even the Face Hunters all the way at the beginning. This is nothing new for Kyoya, so I don't know why it particularly pissed him off so much in this season for Aguma to call it out. And it's even worse when you look at Kyoya from Season 2 to Season 3. It feels like such a regression, because again, Season 2 Kyoya put his desires to the side to team up with Jinga and help him save the world, but in Season 3, he doesn't really want to do that, and he even loses his mind when someone kind of calls him out on it. So yeah, I actually don't hate the idea of Kyoya battling with the fact that he wants to be a lone wolf, but he kind of has to help Jinga in this situation. I like that internal struggle, but it's just a little much here in my opinion. I personally believed that based on Season 2 Kyoya, that he would have grown past the behavior which he displayed in this arc, but maybe that's just me. Now, there is sort of one final piece to his character in this season, and that comes within the Tiffy arc. And to be honest, this is probably the best part of Kyoya's character in Season 3, because he's off on his own, he's angry, he's training, and what do you know, he runs into you. Out of all people to run into on a very remote part of the world, he runs into someone who is directly involved with Jenga's group. This is the last thing Kyoya wanted. And on top of this, he actually finds the final legendary blader. I mean, this is insane. Kyoya went so far away to escape all of this, yet he finds one of Jenga's friends and a legendary blader. Now, the cool thing about this arc is that Yu actually sort of sets Kyoya back on track. Kyoya is of course angry that he ran into Yu and the legendary blader when all he wanted to do was escape that. But then Yu says, I mean, hey, couldn't you call this destiny? I mean, you went to a very remote part of the world, yet all of this stuff still finds you. And then Kyoya actually has a moment where he's like, damn, maybe he's right. Maybe I can't escape my destiny as a legendary blader. And then lo and behold, Kyoya is back. He comes back to the group and he helps them save the world. This is great. I will say it was very short and I wish his redemption, so to speak, could have been a little bit longer, but this is actually really solid writing that they gave him. Then he plays a huge role in saving the world, and what do you know, in the final episode he challenges Jenga to a fight. So overall, do I think Kyoya's arc in this season was bad? No, not really. He actually does have some development in this season, but again, it's development that he honestly shouldn't have had in the first place, because in my opinion, this arc sort of developed him into someone who I already thought he was and already thought he should have been, if that makes sense. And that is the hardcore, not very friendly rival, but ultimately he's still a friend and you can count on him. And look, I will say, even though this arc is not perfect, I sincerely appreciate the writers giving him some substance in this season, because a lot of characters did not get that. So I appreciate them for even going for it at all. But yeah, guys, I want to hear all of your thoughts about Kyoya as a character, specifically Season 3, but let me know your thoughts about his character in general. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate the support, all the comments. Let me know what types of videos you want to see next, and I will see you guys in the next video.